if you've downloaded the Plus package or a retitle package and you've gotten the zip file and you want to make some lower thirds or maybe some full screens, you're not really too keen on Photoshop, then let me walk you through a little bit of how you would do that inside of Photoshop. So you should have opened up the zip file. You should have installed the fonts. If you're not really sure about installing fonts, then check out the tutorial on that. But you can find the links in this help file. But walking through how to install the fonts, there's a tutorial on that. But we're going to spend our time in the project files and then go into Photoshop. And let's spend our time in the screen media folder. So inside of here, you have a full screen PSD and then a lower third PSD. So let's start with the full screen. This one's the easier of the two. So go ahead and double click on that and open it up. And yours should look very similar to this. If it doesn't look like this, then that probably means your fonts weren't installed correctly or you haven't done that yet, so be sure you do that. But if you're looking like this, then you're in good shape. So all of the Photoshop files for Pixel Preacher are built very similar in the fact that they're all, everything is in a folder, and the ones that you want to edit are most likely labeled red. If you don't see anything labeled red, then you may need to toggle down some of these arrows. But for the most part, you're going to be editing text for your project. So each full screen graphic or PSD should have a scripture folder as well as a name folder. So right now we're looking at the name folder, and these are basic text layers, nothing too fancy. For here, all you're going to want to do is click on the text tool, which is over here, scroll over the layer that you want to change, and you can see that the cursor changed from this dotted line around the cursor down to nothing. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to change the name to mine here. There we go. And that looks pretty good. And then I can go into the subtitle folder here and change this text layer to be whatever we want it to be. Okay. All right. Now some projects have their own custom tutorial, and they'll talk about how to tweak some of these boxes, so we won't go into that too much. There's also another tutorial on some of the basics of Photoshop, so check that out as far as transforming layers and moving layers around and those types of things. But that's pretty much it as far as the name slates go. Sometimes you may have a lot more names than just one that you need to make. So for me, I would just duplicate this name folder by hitting Command J, and that'll make a brand new folder of what we just looked at. So I'm going to turn this one off, and now I have another copy of that same thing where I can make several different name slates. So if that's what you want to do and you got it locked in how you want it to be, then just go to File, Save As, and then select, I'll show you really quick, go to File, Save As, and then select JPEG under the Format options down here. Okay, the next section is the Scripture folder. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to open that up. And now you see a bunch of text here, as well as a reference verse. So all you would need to do, again, is this is a text tool. So you click on your text tool and click and highlight the text that you want to change, and then copy and paste it in or type it in. It's very simple there. And then you have the reference verse down here, where you can, again, click and change that to be what you want it to be. And again, this one's a little bit different. It has this little rectangle here, but you can hit V on the keyboard and have your move tool, and that basically is going to move around any layer that you have selected. So for instance, I have the rectangle tool layer here, so I can move that around, make it shorter, make it longer, or I can move my body text around if I want. So the move tool is very handy in those types of situations. But that really covers the lower third or the full screen template for the Plus package. So now let's look at the name slate for the lower third. So I'm going to double click on that, open it up. Now in this one, there's a couple more steps that you're going to need to do. So let's start with a name slate. So I'm going to toggle this down, and you can see here that the layers that we want to change are right here. So let's go ahead and change this. So I hit T on the keyboard to change my name. That looks pretty good. So let's say that's maybe a little bit longer than what we want. So you can see now that this layer is outside of where we want it to be, and it's a little bit too big. So this is where that move tool comes in handy. So I'm going to click on the move tool up here in my tool panel. So I'm going to click on that layer. I'm just going to slide it. I'm going to hold down shift while I do that too so that it stays on that plane. All right, that looks good. I can change my title to be whatever I want it to be. And maybe I want to move that down as well. So I'm going to hit V for my move tool, click and drag that down here. All right, now the only problem is you can see that I don't have enough space on my lower third. So most of them are built very similar in the fact that there is a clipping mask on top of that plate on the back. And so all you need to do is adjust that clipping mask, or you can just move the entire folder. So we can try one of two ways. So I'm going to first start with moving the entire folder. Let's see, I'm going to click on this folder here, which is this background, this blue background. And I'm going to hit V on the keyboard, and I'm going to move that down. So you can see that that works perfectly right there. So I'm just going to move that down to right where I want it to be. Same thing goes for the name slate, which is right here. And that is that background plate. So I'm going to click and I'm going to drag it, slide it down, and that works perfectly. Now I believe that you can also move the clipping mask, which is on here too, but sometimes that doesn't quite work as well. So just try different options. You can unlink this clipping mask to the folder and then move that around. So basically what's happening is everything in this little clipping mask that is white is being shown, and everything that's black has been erased. So wherever I move it to is going to reveal some more of the layer. And you can see that this one doesn't quite reach like we want it to be, so I'm going to back that back down to here. And what we want to do is just move that entire folder by moving it left and right, just like that. Okay, so that covers the name slates. And if I was going to make several different ones, I would duplicate this entire folder so that I don't have to move those panels every time. Okay, so the scripture slate is very similar in the fact that it's just really big. This is meant for scripture or maybe some teaching slides. Again, we won't go through editing the text. You just click on your text tool, click and highlight or type in the text that you want. Now here you have a slate folder right here where you can move this up and down. So maybe you don't need all of this space, but if you hit V on the keyboard, we can click and drag it down like that to make it a little bit smaller. And then you just have to adjust your text by hitting T on the keyboard, and you can move your text box down like that by grabbing that bounding box on the outside and moving it down. Okay. We'll go into some of the basics of the character panel inside of the basics of Photoshop tutorial, so check that out. We won't cover that quite right here. Okay, so for the lower third, if you are going to export these and want to use them on top of maybe an IMAX shot or a video, and you need this transparent background, what you want to do is go to File, Save As, and click on the format and go to PNG. PNG is what's going to preserve that transparent background so that you can use it on top of video or again an IMAX shot. So that's how you want to export those, then save them wherever you need them to go. I believe that covers it for the screen media. If you have any questions or if you get stumbled on anything, please shoot us a message and let us know, and we'll jump on and be sure to help you out as quick as we can to get you on your way. So thanks for checking it out.